The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're proudly coming to you through the ever-expanding X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring Wake Up. In my years as a shamanic practitioner, I've experienced many wonderful metaphorical stories on behalf of my clients. But one stands out above the others. I was working with a lovely lady with abundance challenges. When I journeyed to find out what she needed to know, do, or heal in order to free up her abundance, I was shown a scene where she was crawling across desert sands. The sun beat down, her lips were cracked, eyes squinted shut as she laboriously dragged herself forward. "Water," she croaked from between dry, sand-coated lips. I was starting to despair when the scene panned out, revealing she was not in a desert at all, but in a small sandbox located in the middle of paradise. Water gurgled in a spring surrounded by trees filled with singing birds and dripping with ripe fruit. The message was clear. What needed to be known was that she had all she required right within reach. The necessary action was to wake up and open her eyes, and her belief system warranted healing. This is a very powerful allegory for us all. We've been conditioned to believe in scarcity and lack, view ourselves as being no better than the car we drive. No matter what car we own, there's always better to be had long before our current one is paid off. This has us viewing ourselves as second-rate and wanting. In this agreed-upon reality, we're subject to the system, doing things we often hate to earn the illusionary yet almighty dollar. In truth, we're surrounded by the power of the universe. The abundance is staggering, should we wake up to what's available and to what we are. This power is increasing daily while we continue to be crushed by greedy, exploitive systems, never realizing our potential as creators. We're at the access point to amazing powers found in heaven and earth, yet we're enslaved by carefully programmed false beliefs. We use our limited access to the divine to feed the system in exchange for fake food, superfluous things, and continued programming. It's amazing how many people will settle for inferior nutrition before they give up their cable TV. Our lifestyles are compromising our frequency, trashing our health, and keeping us blinded to what's really going on. Until we open our eyes and access universal power, we'll be starving amongst plenty while the overloading systems become bloated and fat. So how does one access and wield the power of the universe? How can we become creators of a reality rather than subject to the illusion? It's about frequency. We're designed to channel and wield the divine. Yet if our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies are compromised, we're denied our birthright. The systems currently in power are invested in keeping us all dumbed down. Like multitudes of dim lanterns, we're being used for our light, but not allowed to obtain enough luminosity to become personally empowered. This is not a conspiracy, nor am I paranoid. It's a situation that's developed during a time when we were in a much darker or lower frequency area of the galaxy. Many traditions do refer to this as the fourth world. Now we're moving into an area containing much greater luminosity. It's an era that supports another way of being, the fifth world, of higher frequency, allowing for personal empowerment and abundant life. It's up to each of us to step out of Babylon to stop participating in things that compromise our frequency, and to access the divine. It's time to wake up and participate. Our guest this hour, Colin Snow, is a VortexHealing Energy Healer therapist who channels divine light with consciousness to heal karmic condition, emotional issues, and energetic disharmony in the body-mind. Each healing accelerates the light and freedom supported the awakening of the human consciousness to its true nature. He's the founder of the Natural Step School of Tai Chi for Health and Conscious Living in Minneapolis. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Colin, and together we will examine the awakening now available to us all. So don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is VortexHealing Energy Healer and founder of the Natural Step School of Tai Chi for Health, Consciousness, and Living, Colin Snow. Colin's website is vortexminneapolis.com. Colin, thank you for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with the obvious. What is vortex healing?
Yes. Well, vortex healing, I would say it's a contemporary remanifestation of an ancient divine healing art, which is also a path for spiritual awakening designed specifically by divinity. And my viewpoint of divinity can be thought of as the sort of pure potential, the unfathomable source of all, that transforms from that pure potential into everything, into all the manifestations that we can see as human beings and all the unseen manifestations. And it appears that divinity has revealed that the purpose of the design of this particular healing modality is to facilitate healing in human emotional consciousness, healing of the physical body, and awakening freedom in the spiritual heart. And my sense at this time in my journey is that it will ultimately help me personally, and hopefully others too, to realize our full potential as a human being, whatever that might be.
Where did it originate? You said it comes from an ancient divine practice?
Yeah. Well, there was an avatar, and our lineage, the Vortex Healing lineage, sees avatars as an expression of the divine, and a pure expression of the divine, a being really that has come into existence but doesn't have a karmic body. So the likes of you and I and most people on the planet, we all have a karmic body that has been accumulating conditioning and issues over many, many lifetimes. The difference between us and Avatar is really an Avatar comes in and doesn't have that karmic body. So talking about 5,000, maybe 6,000 years ago in India, there was an Avatar named Mahindra, and really that is the source of this lineage, if you like. As the lineage has faded out of human consciousness and then been rebirthed, that source or expression of the divine has become known as Merlin, and it's from that expression that we are able to channel this particular divine energy and divine consciousness.
Okay, let's break this down a little bit. Avatar to me is that blue thing that was in the movie. So would you mind saying what you mean by avatar?
Yeah. Well, there have been probably the best known avatars. We have avatars on the planet right now. And again, this is from, our particular viewpoint, from our particular lineage. One possibly of the best known avatars we consider at the moment is Amma, the hugging saint. When the teachers we go and visit Amma and take darshan with her, and it's become pretty clear that this is an extraordinary being. When they track into her, the sense of her, the consciousness of her, they can't find a karmic body. So we have this being that's manifested as a human being, as a human being, but there's no sense of a karmic body. And so she really is a contemporary expression, direct expression of the divine.
Okay, let me see if I've got this right. So we all carry karma from lifetimes of damage and this and that. But an avatar is present physically without that karma in place. So they're coming from a more pure place. Is that what we're looking at?
That's what we're looking at. And there's been a number of avatars over the years, over the history of mankind. We also sense that Christ was an avatar as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. It sounds like he was, yes.
Yeah,
so
very much so. I think that it's pretty clear from the teachings and from the amount of freedom that he was expressing from a very, very liberated place, that there was an extraordinary being there that had manifested, but again, there's a sense that there wasn't really a karmic body, that there wasn't this sort of recycling, if you like, of the incarnational package.
Got it. So one thing I've experienced in, my explorations is that many of us, most of us actually, are a result of this recycling. Like there's been this energy ceiling around the planet, if you will, not a physical one, but, metaphorically, that prevents us from totally dropping our robes and leaving our karma behind before re-entering. And yet some, during this time now, seem to be, in times not too distant past, seem to be coming in from the outside of that energy ceiling. And this is what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, this phenomena I think you're referring to has the label of spiritual awakening. And it was a phenomena that was something that I wasn't really aware of, to be honest, until certain things started happening in my life, and I still wasn't aware of what was going on. And this is a phenomena that seems to be accelerated at the moment right around the planet, where more and more people are, as it were, waking up from the sort of trance of mind. So most of us are sort of identifying and attached to what's going on above the neck. So to our thinking, to our thoughts, to our judgments, and our beliefs, that's where human consciousness tends to identify and tell itself that that's what it is. What seems to be occurring more and more is that something much deeper is starting to move within human consciousness, and is waking up from that dream state, is waking us up from the sense that there's a lot more going on in life, and we are much bigger on some level, or much more on some level, than what's just kind of occurring in our thoughts, in our mind.
So, like, this is a time of reverse engineering, if you will. Like we said, the avatars come from a place beyond the lower frequency where we're still carrying karma. Do we have the opportunity to actually process our karma and evolve into a more avatar-like being?
We won't be able to, as far as I know, we'll never be able to evolve into an avatar being. We will evolve, but I mean, maybe eventually, we return to the source, and then there's a potential, of course, for us to come back as an avatar. But I kind of think that that's probably unlikely, but really I don't know. My sense is that once we have evolved to a certain amount of freedom in the human heart and a certain amount of freedom from our incarnational package, that we don't actually return. So it's as if we need that incarnational package. It's as if we need the conditioning. We need our human issues in order to reincarnate as a human being. Once that conditioning and those issues, that incarnational package starts to get very thin, it starts to get very light, and so therefore doesn't no longer reincarnate. So what the next step is after that, I can't really say. I don't know.
What are the scientific principles behind vortex healing?
Well, scientific principles. I suppose one image I might use is the scientific principle of a cell phone. So we don't really, we don't really question how a cell phone operates. I mean, people just take it for granted. But first of all, there's an intention. So, we intend to call someone on the other side of the planet, in Australia, let's say. So there's an intention, and then there's a message that's sent. And that message is transferred through what appears to be nothing in terms of, well, there's air and there's space, and it reaches a source, as it were, in terms of the satellite. And then that signal is returned down to someone pretty instantly on the other side of the planet. So if we kind of think of vortex healing as a way of using our intention to connect to this divine source, and then the divine source basically reconnects or reestablishes to wherever we want that intention to go. So it could still be a person in Australia, or it could be something, somebody in front of me. It could be a situation, it could be a building, it could be a relationship, pretty much anything, really. And it's all done with intention. It's all done with that initial intention that, we want to use, we want to manifest vortex healing for a particular reason, for a particular purpose.
So it's like setting an intent to align with a higher frequency in order to bring it through to your client. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's kind of a two-way street. You set the intention, that sends out the call, but then you have to channel the frequency back through yourself for your own healing or through your client.
I'm So when I'm working with a client, I'm just like a conduit for it. I'm just channeling it. We have many protocols for different ways of using it. So we have a protocol, let's say, for viral infections, or we have a protocol for releasing issues or conditioning from the system. So there's many different protocols.
We're going to take a break, and on the other side of the break, we'll talk about these protocols. Colin and I will return to our discussion after this commercial break. We're coming to you through the land of leading-edge paranormal broadcasting, the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net. You're listening to The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. We will be back, so don't you go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is VortexHealing Energy Healer and founder of the Natural Step School of Tai Chi for Health and Conscious Living, COLIN SNOW. Colin, we were just getting interesting information from you about the protocol in Vortex Healing. Would you mind going into that a little for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, there's many different protocols. Vortex is very powerful because basically it's coming from that divine source. So it's important to kind of make or get a sense of just how powerful that can be, because we're not only channeling a very high frequency energy, but we're also channeling divine consciousness. So there's an intelligence there that's far beyond my understanding, so to speak. Most energy healing, all good stuff, but it tends to use manifested energy that's been slowed down from that pure potential. This is my understanding. So, when I've worked with Qigong healing, for instance, universal energy, great stuff, great results, but that is a slower movement of energy. Now, with Vortex, we have, basic stuff like someone could come in with a very depleted, weak energy system, really in probably the level that I'm at the moment. Probably we could bring up all the energy systems from the meridians to the Jinshin to the chakras in probably one session, depending on how weak that energy system was. And then on the other end, we've got viral protocols. So there are specific energies that can be channeled that will actually not only de-camouflage the virus, because viruses are really, really smart, and it can break down their communication system, but it will also pretty well burn the virus out. It will get to a point where then it will say, okay, now the human body has to take over to kind of finish it off. And there's just really, I suppose I should mention too, there are issue protocols. So let's say someone's issue is lack. I think you were talking about that at the beginning of the show. There's a protocol basically that would address that issue in that being, and pretty well release it from all the dimensions that it's sitting in that. So it's very extensive. It really is quite, and it's evolving. This is a healing art that's evolving all the time. So the teachers are working with Merlin. Merlin will continue to reveal new things to them. Those things get put into the classes. They get put into the transmissions that the students are using. So it's a very, very, it's a very, very live modality. It's really very ongoing, and the teachers are finding out more and more about it as they go.
Got it. So it sounds like you're working on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels by channeling this divine light. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it has this element. At first, Rick Wyman, who's the lineage holder and was the person that really re-established the lineage back in 1994, he... Sorry, I just lost my... Can you just ask me the question again?
No problem. Why don't we move on to the next question, because I'm not sure where we were going with that one. So
Okay.
I guess I have to say that it sounds to me like if you're going to be channeling this divine light, which is very high frequency, higher than Qigong, higher than, there's another one I'm thinking of, but doesn't the practitioner have to work on themselves first so that they can be a clear channel? I mean, it sounds like it could really shake some stuff loose.
Yeah, absolutely, and this was actually why I was mentioning this other aspect is this, it's a healing modality, but it's actually an awakening modality as well. So just picking up from where I left off last time. So the interesting thing about it is that the first transmission that you get on the basic foundational course, which you can only get from a teacher. You can only get that transmission from a teacher, and that's like having a software program put into your system. We talk about it being like an energetic wheel, and it's in the heart center. Now, once that's established, then a person can channel this divine energy and consciousness. As time went by, Rick recognized that it wasn't only just a healing modality, that through his own awakening, he recognized that that was also possible through vortex healing, and that Merlin was actually manifesting that aspect of it as well. And that's very much to do with the spiritual heart, very much to do with, as I said earlier, the sense of spiritual awakening, the sense of recognizing that there's more and to life, and there's more about us as individuals than we can kind of mentally, kind of intellectually figure out.
I find it interesting, so many modalities use an original transmission that's passed from teacher to student. And I've been around a lot of them, and certainly all my shamanic teachers provided transmissions for me in order to be able to attune me to the frequencies that I could bring the frequency through. And I found personally that did initiate a lot of personal processing. So I have to ask, who's Merlin?
Yeah. You have to ask what? Sorry?
Who's Merlin?
Who's Merlin? Yeah, well, that's... see, as soon as we put a label on something, it automatically, and the name has associations, so it automatically sort of, as a human being, we kind of think, oh, it's a being, that there's some, something sitting up there that's, sort of that we can relate to as a being. And I suppose in some ways that's why it's, that we have to relate to this and give it a name. But, ultimately, as I say, Merlin is an expression of that pure potential, that place before anything starts to turn into something. And again, that's my interpretation of it. And when we ask, when we use intention, to give it a name, is significant. And this is where we get the idea that it's about magical transformation. And I think that's where the association between vortex healing and Merlin, and that, because we are it does have the ability to transform human consciousness and to release conditioning.
Got it.
And if that isn't magical, I'm not sure what is.
Right.
My sense, more and more as I've been doing this, is that we live in a magical realm. Everything that we look out to has arrived from somewhere. It's just that we've got really familiar with it. Oh, that's a car, that's a tree, that's a bird. So we label something, and then we stop seeing the magic in it.
Got it. So I see that Vortex Healing has a registered trademark. As the devil's advocate, I have to ask, how does one trademark universal power? Isn't that kind of like trying to claim the wind?
Yeah, this was something that came up. My wife came up with this, but it's really to ensure that the lineage stays pure. That people take something and then try to make it their own, and so somebody could come along and say, "Okay, I'm a vortex teacher. I'm going to, give you the transmission. You're now, a vortex student." So it was really as a way of ensuring that the lineage maintains its integrity.
And so it originally came through a human teacher from the spirit of Merlin. Is that correct?
Well, from Mahindra. And then, as I say, over the years, that as it's been resurfaced, so it seems that it will have dropped away, and then it will come back, and it keeps resurfacing, and it resurfaced again in 1994 to Rick Wyman.
Okay, so it came from the ancient past, but we're trademarking it today to keep it pure?
Yeah. We live in a contemporary modern world, and so we use cell phones, we use trademarks, we use, any number of things. It's, as I say, it's evolved to that point, and it's really to maintain the integrity and honesty of the lineage.
So checks and balances in the fifth world, fourth world checks and balances to get us into the fifth, right?
Yeah. We're living in a different age now where, for instance, they teach Tai Chi. Well, there isn't really any checks and balances on that. You can't really, there are people that are trying to, register it or, become the sole advocates for certain things, but I think that, and that's difficult to do with something like Tai Chi. So it's just also it's a legal issue as well. The best person to talk to about it probably isn't myself, but that's my sense. It's keeping the integrity of the lineage and maintaining it.
Right. I know that because it's not regulated, we have similar problems with shamanism, is that a person can take a weekend course or not even take a weekend course, claim to be a shaman, hang out their shingle. And so we do need some kind of checks and balances. I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's important because there's so much, how can I put this? I mean, I think the reason that I've arrived at all this is because through my lifetime I've really been a healthy skeptic. And if something doesn't resonate with truth for me, I'm not going to go there. And in truth, for the best part of my life, if anybody had started talking about what
we're going to have to address this on the other side. It's time for another break. Colin and I will be back shortly. You're listening to The Science of Magic. TheScienceOfMagic.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. We're brought to you by the leader in paranormal, spirituality, and alternative health programming, the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is VortexHealing Energy Healer and founder of the Natural Step School of Tai Chi for Health and Conscious Living, Colin Snow. Colin, let's move to Tai Chi. I love Tai Chi. Would you tell me why you developed your school the way it is?
Well, over the years, I've been blessed with fantastic teachers. And so way back when, in the 80s, I started Tai Chi. I have no idea why. I knew I was looking for something, but I didn't really know what it was, and I knew organized religion wasn't, going to fit the bill. And I saw something for a free Tai Chi class. It resonated. I went along and began. Fast forward to 2003, after a career in special needs elementary teaching, I moved to Minneapolis from Cardiff S.Wales. I'm out in Loring Green Park, which is a park close by. I'm playing my Tai Chi. I'm reminded of reading a lot of Joseph Campbell before I left. Joseph Campbell would talk about following your bliss. I didn't have a job in the USA, and suddenly it just dawned on me that, actually playing Tai Chi was my bliss. So that's kind of, how it all began. I called it Natural Step because I think it's important for people to understand that, it's one of the first things we learn is a natural step physically, but then, it's also understanding where are we aligned with life itself and taking a natural step in life. Gradually, as the school and my teachings evolve, we're now sort of working much more with ripening the system in terms of using it as a moving meditation, using the underlying principles, to sort of align people really to the truth of who they are. And so I'll often describe Tai Chi now as a sort of bridge between the manifested form and the unmanifested. and you're kind of on that, you're kind of in that place that bridges between those two realities, if you like.
You got it. So before we get too far into this last segment, would you mind telling people where they can find your services?
Yeah, I'm located in Minneapolis, Natural Step School of Tai Chi.com, and I think you already gave my VortexMinneapolis.com website out. I would like to also just flag up that there are two, if people want to find out more about awakening, Merlin has revealed to Rick the whole kind of, the book is called Awakening Through the Veils, A Seeker's Guide. And really it maps out, it's a fantastic map, really, of that whole process of awakening. Very accessible read. And more recently, Rick's written a book, Vortex Healing, Divine Energy Healing, A Magical Path of Healing and Awakening. And again, that's a great read. Will really kind of plug you into this whole, which is truly a fantastic, it is the most profound and significant thing that I've ever done. And, I can't recommend it enough. It's been, it's been absolutely fantastic. And seeing the results that's the other aspect of it, is, just seeing the results that are happening, and the way that people respond to it is just extraordinary.
That's great. It's always nice to run into something that works. So what has your 30 years of Tai Chi taught you about channeling divine light?
Well, it's not really the Tai Chi that taught me much about channeling divine light. I think Tai Chi sort of really it really helped to ripen my system. And then, the early days of when I started to get sort of these awakening movements in my system, I feel as if the sort of release work, the opening and releasing that Tai Chi brought into my system helped to facilitate those early awakening movements. And then once I got to Vortex Healing, once you move through several of the courses in Vortex Healing, from this lineage perspective, a true awakening is when what we call the core veil breaks down. And the core veil is really a veil that is sort of keeping us separate in the heart. So we sort of view ourselves as these individual little bubbles of consciousness, of self, sort of a local field of consciousness, if you like. And Vortex is powerful enough to actually break through those veils. There's several of them, but the core veil is the one that that the lineage feels is the one that needs to go in order to have a true awakening. But other modalities, other systems will have different thoughts about that.
Well, it's interesting. It sounds like we've come full circle, really, from when we were talking about how you have to prepare the facility, your body, and on all four levels, to be able to channel this really high-frequency light. And it sounds like Tai Chi was a form of initiation for you in that regard. Is that correct, or am I erroneous there?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're erroneous. I think it certainly helped. I do think it's really important that we understand that we are in a physical body and that we need to actually care for that. It's like the vehicle for spirit. It's like the vehicle for everything that we do. So for me, it was definitely a preparation period, if you like, an incubation period. I jokingly say that it kind of saved my life because I wasn't in any physical danger. I wasn't going through any, disease or disharmony in my system, but in a way it really supported my spiritual path. As I say, I was blessed with a fantastic teacher and a good friend, back in the UK, Richard Farmer, and and really it laid the foundation for everything that came. And I think it made it much easier in a way to take on board something that, as I said earlier, I think, that I would have been somewhat skeptical about if someone had come and started talking to me about, talking about awakening, let alone Merlin and channeling energy to...
We're just about out of time, but you know what I'd really like to touch in on is it seems like you mentioned that the vortex healing is an evolutionary healing modality, that new information keeps coming through. Do you feel like we are indeed in a time of accelerated evolution as human beings? And could you speak to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have to say that from where I am at, because, but then listening to other spiritual teachers, awake teachers, Adyashanti, Eckhart Tolle, they're saying pretty much the same thing, that there does seem to be this acceleration of evolvement in human consciousness. And looking at the level of insanity that's going on the planet, I kind of think that it's high time. I sense that there's a lot coming to the surface, and usually when things are coming to the surface, it's a call for healing. And I think at the moment, perhaps more than ever, we're getting a lot of outside help. From the angelic realm, from Merlin, from this magical, from Amma avatars that are on the planet right now, and we only just have to turn just a little away from what we are familiar with in order to touch it. I mean, the fact that we've got internet and we can listen to Adyashanti, we can listen to someone who's had a full awakening, is enlightened, is extraordinary. I mean, if you think of the days back when we had Buddha, Buddha's the most well-known person that was enlightened. It's like, well, how do you get to hear about him? How do you get to go and hear him talk? Whereas today, with new technology, it's just Eckhart Tolle's there, Ajah's there. We can go and get darshan from an avatar, Amma. I mean, it's there, but we just have to sort of turn away from what we're familiar with, and perhaps also turn away from tradition as well. Tradition seems to be holding people in a particular shape. Tradition seems to be sort of trying to root truth into the world of illusion, and it doesn't evolve. And what I love about vortex healing is, it's not stuck. It's continually evolving.
That's wonderful. It's been such a wonderful hour, and I can't thank you enough for being on our program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. Our guest this hour has been Vortex Healing Energy Healer and founder of the Natural Step School of Tai Chi for Health and Consciousness, Colin Snow. Colin's website, vortexminneapolis.com. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, past innovative episodes can always be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, as you wake up to all that you are.
One people, one nation, searching through the night. One people, one nation, searching for the light. One people, one nation, coming from the stars. One people, one nation,